Returning to his car, he was returning from a walk in the woods. He heard a lion roar. "That's crazy," he thought. "No lions live in these woods." He heard the lion roar again. He got scared. The roar was between him and his car. It was getting dark. He continued walking, very slowly and carefully. Suddenly the lion roared right next to him. He nearly jumped out of his skin. "I'm gonna die," he thought. He looked all around. He didn't see a lion anywhere. But he did see a mouse on the ground. The mouse opened its mouth and roared. Chad laughed. The lion was only a mouse. He asked it, "Why do you sound like a lion?" The mouse said, "I used to be a lion far from here. One day I tried to eat a witch. She turned me into a lonely mouse." He was driving his 1974 Mercedes 300D down the mountain road. He entered a curve. He pressed on the brake pedal. The car slowed down only a little. He pressed harder. He went through the curve faster than he had wanted to. At the next curve, he pressed hard on the brake pedal. The car slowed down only a little. He went through the curve even faster than through the previous curve. He was scared. The road flattened out a bit. A sign said "Pull out ahead." He drove into the pullout and parked the car. He got out. He could smell something burnt. The smell was strongest near the wheels. He called AAA for a tow. Then he called his wife. He said, "I think buying this car was a big mistake." She said, "That's what I tried to tell you. That's why you shouldn't buy a car marked salvage." On a sheet of paper he printed, "Hire me, John Smith, painter, 917-555-1234, $20 per hour." He slid the paper into a plastic protector. He hung the protector around his neck. He looked at his sign in the bathroom mirror. It looked good. He went to Broadway and 34th Street near Macy's. He stood there with his sign around his neck. Many people walked by. Few people looked at his sign. He took the sign off his neck. He held it high up in the air. More people looked, but not enough. His arm was tired. He went to a street vendor. He bought a bunch of bananas. He went back to Broadway. He hung the sign around his neck again. He balanced the bunch of bananas on his head. Everybody looked. Many people smiled. Some people laughed. 2 people called him a jerk. But at least people are looking, he thought. Ben was in bed. He could hear his uncle in the kitchen. He was arguing with Ben's father. "Do I look like a bank? You're always asking me for money," Ben's uncle said, "and it always takes you years to pay me back." Ben's father said, "I ask you because you're my well-off brother. Look at you. You own your own business. You're debt-free. You're single. You party all the time. You have your own boat. You have a huge condo in Manhattan. My wife and I are trying to raise 5 kids. We have this small apartment in Brooklyn. I work 2 jobs. I only borrow money in emergencies." Ben's uncle said, "You shouldn't have had so many kids. Why would anyone have 5 kids? You should have stopped after the first kid, but you didn't. I should start charging you interest, then maybe you'll have fewer emergencies." It was the day before Thanksgiving. He said, "I'm taking the subway to 23rd Street tomorrow. I'll pick up a turkey dinner from Trader Joe's. It'll be pre-cooked, but you said that was okay with you." She said, "I did? I said pre-cooked is okay with me? When did I say that? Was I high on drugs? Were you? I never said that. Thanksgiving is once a year. I deserve a fresh-cooked turkey dinner once a year. We're going to eat fresh-cooked turkey tomorrow. You will cook one at home, or you will take me out to a nice restaurant. Either one is okay with me." He said, "I've never cooked a turkey in my life, so I guess we'll go out." She said, "It better be a nice place. No greasy spoon restaurant, no hole-in-the-wall restaurant. I want tablecloths and shiny silverware. I want cloth napkins and well-dressed waiters." Lottery officials doubled the price of a Powerball ticket. It used to be $1, now it's $2. The chance of winning the grand prize is now 1 in 175 million. It used to be 1 in 195 million.
Second prize is now $1 million. It used to be $200,000. The smallest prize is now $4. It used to be $3. The ticket increase is only $1, said a lottery official. Now the payout is much better, and the chance of winning is much better. The public will love the new Powerball. I'm not playing Powerball anymore, said Bruce. The chance of winning is still microscopic. They want us to pay double to win zero. How stupid do they think we are? 6 weeks later, the Powerball grand prize was $310 million. Bruce bought a ticket. Just one ticket, for this one game, just this one time, Bruce promised himself. For Chinese New Year, Lisa set out 4 plates and 4 glasses. She set out lobster, rice, greens, and tofu. She set out oranges, grapes, and cherries. She set out cakes and cookies. She set out 2 shot glasses filled with whiskey. She set out 2 ashtrays. A lit cigarette rested in each ashtray. Lisa and Mel burned phony $1,000 bills for her ancestors. Lisa greeted and thanked her ancestors. She asked for their help in the new year. Later, Mel and Lisa ate dinner. After dinner, Mel was sitting on the sofa. Lisa came out of the bathroom. "Look what I found on the bathroom floor," she said. She opened her hand. Mel saw a tiny green worm. "I'm going to put it outside," Lisa said. Mel asked, "Put it outside? Why not just flush it down the toilet?" She said, "Because it might be one of my ancestors." Susan invited Joan to a concert at the United Nations building. Susan was a rich old lady. Joan was a young real estate agent. She had known Susan for a year. Joan was trying to help Susan rent out a rundown apartment she owned. It was on the Upper East Side. Joan told Susan she was asking too much. "Someone will pay my price eventually," Susan said. Joan enjoyed the concert. Afterwards, Susan said, "That concert made me hungry. I know a good restaurant nearby." Joan said okay. She knew the free concert ticket wasn't free. She knew she would have to pay for dinner. Susan was as cheap as she was rich. She had not even bought the concert tickets. They were a gift. They sat down in the restaurant. The waiter came. They each ordered dinner. But before the waiter could leave, Susan ordered another dinner to take home. Amy had heard really bad news. "They're kicking us out of our apartment," she said. "They're renovating the entire A wing. Everyone in A wing has to move out by September 1st. Sam said, "You're kidding. Who told you this? How can they do this? This is unbelievable." Amy agreed. "Nancy told me this morning," she said. "She said that management will tell everybody next week." They sat down on the sofa. What were they going to do? Where were they going to go? They loved their apartment. They hardly slept that night. Next morning, Sam said, "Why don't you call up Nancy just to double-check? Maybe, just maybe, you heard her wrong." Amy called Nancy. Nancy said, "Amy, I said they're renovating B wing. I said they're not renovating A wing." Amy hung up. "We don't have to move! We don't have to move!" she yelled, jumping up and down. He took the R train downtown to Century 21. He saw a size 40 black leather jacket. He tried it on. It fit him well. The sleeves were the right length. The shoulders were the right width. The zippers smoothly zipped up and down. The lambskin was soft. He saw no rips or marks. Best of all, it was 50% off regular price. He took it home. His wife looked at it for about 2 minutes. "Take it back," she said. "Take it back," he said. "What's wrong with it?" She said, "Everything. The collar doesn't sit flat. The collar doesn't cover the seam behind the neck. The leather under the collar is inferior. The zipper teeth and the metal slider are visible when the jacket's zipped up. There are blemishes near the left elbow. Go get your money back. Then I help you find a jacket that's made right." Simon invented a universal opener. It opens everything instantly. It opens all cans and bottles, including medicine bottles. It opens cardboard boxes. It opens those annoying blister packs, large and small. It opens those annoying DVD cases. It's about the size of a man's thumb. It uses sound waves, but it makes no noise. It operates on one AA battery. It costs $5. It's the greatest thing since the wheel, said one user. It's the greatest thing since flip-flops, said another. It's the greatest thing since the Big Mac, said another. Everyone raves about Simon's opener. It's made everyone's life better. It's made Simon rich. But he wants to improve his invention. How could you possibly improve it? Asked his wife. The only thing better would be if you could just tell a package to open. Simon said, Bingo, you read my mind. That's exactly what I'm going to do. She was at the NYU Dental School. Pietro, a student dentist, was going to extract her painful wisdom tooth. He asked her if she had eaten that morning. She said she hadn't eaten since midnight. He said, You should have eaten a big breakfast. You're going to be very hungry this afternoon, but you won't be able to eat. She said, This afternoon? I'm starving right now. She glared at her husband. He said, How was I supposed to know? They always say don't eat after midnight if you're having surgery in the morning. How should I know that dentists want you to eat the night before and the morning before? She said, Because it's common sense. Fill up before surgery because you won't be able to eat after surgery. I told you it was okay for me to eat. I'm starving, he said. Okay, next time I'll know better. After years of research, Michael created an anti-aging pill. He said to his wife, This pill stops a person from aging for 100 years. It's like magic. She said, That's not magic, that's unnatural. God wants us to live a certain amount of time, and that's it. He said, Honey, we can split the pill. Then we can live together another 50 years. Don't you want to do that? She didn't. He thought about secretly dropping half the pill into her coffee. But then she might yell at him for the next 50 years. He thought about taking the pill himself. But then she might notice that he wasn't aging. That would mean years of yelling too. What am I going to do with this magic pill, he wondered. He called his father. He wasn't interested either. He said, Life is just the right number of years as it is. Many co-workers got Valentine's Day roses today, said Alma. Some kept asking me where my roses were. Ernie said, I thought you disliked Valentine's Day. You told me not to waste money on cards or flowers. Now you're interested in Valentine's Day? Alma said, Never mind, you wouldn't understand. The next day Ernie went online. He looked for roses on sale. There weren't any. A Midtown shop featured a dozen roses for $102, including delivery. That's not cheap, Ernie thought, but if it made Alma feel better, it was worth it. He called the shop. The employee said, We're super busy. We're still delivering flowers ordered yesterday. The shop didn't deliver the roses to Alma's office until 2:15. Alma arrived at her office at 2:30. Leftovers, leftovers, someone sent you leftovers, some of her co-workers chanted. They were laughing. Alma took the roses outside. She threw them in the trash. It was late February. It was time for Luke to pay his taxes. He gathered his 3 W-2s. Each W-2 stated his income for each job. Then he gathered his various bills and receipts. He had computer expenses, he had medical expenses, he had transportation expenses, he had other expenses. He put everything in an envelope. He mailed it to his tax accountant. His accountant plugged all the dollar figures into the computer. Then he sent Luke the federal tax return and the New York tax return. Dear Luke, wrote his accountant, enclosed is your federal individual income tax return. Also enclosed is your New York individual income tax return. You owe the federal government $100. You owe New York $50. Write the checks, put the returns and checks into the enclosed pre-addressed envelopes. Mail them using certified mail return receipts. Then write one more check. You owe me $250. Clyde went for a job interview. The school was on 8th Avenue. He told the receptionist, I have a 3 o'clock interview with Jessica. She said, She'll be with you shortly. Clyde examined some books while he waited. They were ESL books called Interchange. He was familiar with them. He had used them for many years to teach ESL students. A young woman approached him. She introduced herself. He followed her into an empty room. They sat down. He said, You are very young. She smiled weakly. She told him about the school. She asked him some questions.
Then she asked if he had any questions. He didn't. She said, "I'll let you know by Friday one way or the other." They got up. He said, "I can't get over how young you are." She looked at him oddly. He left. She didn't let him know on Friday or thereafter. He pressed select on his remote. He selected On Demand on his TV screen. He selected ABC. He selected Jeopardy. He selected Play. Error 100 appeared on screen. He called Time Warner. He described his problem to the representative. She said, "Turn off your TV and cable box. I'll reboot your system. Wait till the time appears again on the box." A while later, he said, "The box says 10:15. She said, "Turn everything back on. Now try On Demand again." He did. "It works," he said, "but this is ridiculous. I have to call you every time I want to use On Demand." She said, "No, you don't. Anytime you want to use On Demand, simply turn off the TV and cable box, unplug the box, plug it back in, wait till it reboots, turn the box and TV back on, then select On Demand. That's it. No phone call." "Can you work next weekend?" Harry asked. "I don't know," said Marty. "I'll have to check with my wife first." Harry smirked. "You're kidding," he said. "You have to ask your wife's permission? What kind of man are you?" Marty said, "I'm a married man. That means my wife and I are partners. We do things together. We make decisions together. She needs my help sometimes on weekends, so I'm going to ask her if she needs my help next weekend. If she needs my help, I can't work next weekend. If she doesn't need my help, I can work next weekend." "Does that sound so strange to you?" Harry said, "It sure does. If someone offers me work, I take it. My wife takes care of the house and the kids. She does the shopping. I make the money. I never ask her permission about work or anything else." John Smith, 56, died earlier this week. He died of a heart attack. He didn't show up to work on Monday. His boss called his home phone and cell phone. There was no answer. On Tuesday his boss called again. Again there was no answer. Then his boss called the police. The police went to John's apartment. They found him on the kitchen floor. John's boss and 3 co-workers attended the funeral service. John had no family. The pastor said, "John was a nice man. He was friendly and polite. He had problems, but he never complained. When his wife died, he didn't complain. When someone stole his identity, he didn't complain. When he had his first heart attack, he didn't complain. When he lost his house, he didn't complain. He never complained about anything." After the service, a co-worker said, "Maybe that was the problem. He held everything inside." Lorna's sister wanted to move to America. She lived in China. Lorna had moved to America many years earlier. Lorna talked to May, an immigration lawyer in Manhattan. May said, "The paperwork will cost $1,000. Lorna said, "Can her husband move here with her?" May said, "Of course, for another $1,000. Lorna said, "That's no problem. They have the money. I'll call them later tonight. I'll tell them the good news. They can move in with me. It'll be so nice to be together again." May said, "Whoa! Hold on. Don't tell them to start packing yet. There's a long waiting list for people from China. Do you know how long it is nowadays? Even if you fill out the application form today, they won't be eligible to come here for another 11 or 12 years. Lorna's eyes opened wide. "Come on," she said. "That's ridiculous." May said, "Maybe even longer." He was walking along the beach. He saw something dark near the water. He walked over to it. It was a bottle. It looked very old. He picked it up. It felt like it was empty, but a cork was in the bottle. He removed the cork. White smoke quickly rose out of the bottle. The smoke changed shape and color. It became the face of a pretty woman. The woman said, "Thank you for releasing me. I will grant you one of 3 wishes. You may be wealthy, you may be happy, you may be healthy. Which one do you choose?" He said, "That's a tough choice. Can't I have all 3? She said, "Sure, if you find 2 more bottles. But right now you may choose only one." He thought about it. Money can buy happiness. Money can buy the best health care. "Make me wealthy," he said. "Your last colonoscopy was 10 years ago," Dr. Carter said. "It's time for another one." Bruce made an appointment for another one. He received prescriptions for a laxative and a plastic gallon jug. The jug contained electrolytes. The day before the colonoscopy, he ate a hearty breakfast. Then he filled the jug with water. He shook the jug well. He put it in the refrigerator. He had a liquid lunch. At 6 p.m. he started drinking the electrolyte solution. At 7 p.m. he took the laxative. It took him 4 hours to finish drinking the solution. During that time, he sat on the toilet 12 times. "I'm glad this is only once every 10 years, he thought. The colonoscopy took place the following afternoon. "Is everything okay?" Bruce asked in the recovery room. "No," the nurse said. "There was a problem. You'll have to make an appointment for another colonoscopy." Mickey walked into a bar. He ordered a beer. He took his beer to a table near the dartboard. 2 men were playing darts. He asked, "Can I play the winner?" The men nodded. They finished their game. Mickey stood up to play. "The loser buys the beer, okay?" said Mickey. The men nodded again. Mickey was good. He won the next 10 games. He drank 10 free beers. He continued drinking and playing. He started missing the bullseye on the dartboard. Then he started missing the dartboard itself. He quit playing. He staggered out of the bar. He walked in front of an oncoming car. He flew through the air. He landed on the street. Both his legs were broken. He sued the bar for letting him get so drunk. A judge said, "The bar owner didn't force you to drink all that beer. You have no case." English was Kyla's second language. She had pronunciation problems. She had a problem with some vowels. She had a problem with some consonants. She had a problem with the R sound. She said "ca" instead of "car." Kyla's co-workers never seemed to understand her. "Can you please help me?" Kyla asked Susan one day. Susan ignored her. Kyla asked again. Susan said, "What? I don't understand you." Kyla asked again. Susan said, "Oh, now I understand. No, I can't help you. I'm busy." When Kyla asked other co-workers for help, their responses were similar. Of course, Kyla stopped asking her co-workers for help. She learned to do everything by herself. In fact, she became very good at her job. In time, her co-workers began asking Kyla for help. One day, Kyla helped Susan. Susan understood everything that Kyla said. Not once did Susan say, "What?" or "I don't understand you." Kenny went to a psychiatrist. The psychiatrist had written many books. "How can I help you? What's your problem?" the psychiatrist asked. Kenny said, "I have only one problem, but it's a big one. I hate my life. I'm tired of living. I'm tired of everything. Nothing is fun. Everything is work. Getting out of bed is work. Peeling a banana is work. Blowing my nose is work. All I want to do is sleep. I want to sleep forever. I can't take it anymore. I want to check out. I want to end it all. Maybe you can help me." The psychiatrist asked, "Help you what?" Kenny said, "Help me check out. Don't you understand? Am I being unclear? I wish I was dead. I wish I was dead. I wish I was dead." The psychiatrist corrected him. "I wish I were dead," he said. "You too?" Kenny asked. They were in Little Italy, near Chinatown. "I am starving," Meg said. She wanted to try an Italian dish. Aaron said, "You might not like it." She said, "That's okay. If I don't, you can eat it." They stopped at a busy corner restaurant. "This one must be good. It's crowded," she said. He agreed. They sat at a table. The waiter came by. "I want what she's eating," Meg said. She pointed to a nearby customer. The waiter said, "That's lasagna. It's the lunch special for $9, but the special price ended 10 minutes ago." Meg said that was okay. The waiter brought the lasagna minutes later. She took one bite. "Ugh," she said. She gave it to Aaron. He finished the special. "That was so bland," he said. "It was overpriced at $9. The waiter brought the bill. It was $18. "Let's go to Chinatown," Meg said. "I'm starvin'." St. Peter greeted Justin at the pearly gates. St. Peter said, "Welcome to heaven. I'm St. Peter. Your name, sir?" Justin asked, "My name? Don't you know my name? I thought you people knew everything and everyone." St. Peter said, "We do, but sometimes new arrivals are dazed. We call it death lag." Justin said, "My name is Justin Porter." St. Peter said, "That's correct. Do you remember dying?" Justin didn't. St. Peter said, "Two children were playing near the edge of the subway platform. The boy accidentally pushed his sister onto the tracks. The Q train was rapidly approaching, yet you jumped down onto the tracks. You lifted the girl up onto the platform. The train hit you. An angel brought you straight to heaven. In heaven, everyone's cup of happiness is full, but some cups are bigger than others. Your cup is one of the biggest of all." One Punch Paulie was the world's greatest boxer. With either hand he had the world's most powerful punch, said his trainer. "I saw him punch a Manhattan phone book. It was 4 inches thick. After Paulie's punch, it was 1 inch thick." Paulie weighed only 168 pounds, but 20 years ago he was the champion of 4 weight divisions. He was the champion of the super middleweight, light heavyweight, cruiserweight, and heavyweight divisions. He threw exactly 1 punch per fight. He always waited until the right moment. Then he threw his right, or his left. It didn't matter. 1 punch, 1 knockout. Each opponent was carried straight to the hospital. They all retired from boxing when they got out of the hospital. Paulie retired after just 4 professional fights. He was only 21, but after he had put the heavyweight champ into the hospital, nobody else wanted to fight Paulie. Jason wanted to buy a Soleus space heater. It is quiet, it produces a lot of heat. Amazon.com was selling it for only $40. But next day shipping cost $20. For $46, the heater was also at Office Depot. Jason walked over to Office Depot. A worker said, "It isn't in stock, but we can order it. You'll get it tomorrow." The worker's name was David. Under his name tag was another tag. It said, "In training." Jason said, "That's great, but how much for shipping?" David said, "It's free." Jason paid for the heater. At 4 p.m. the next day, he called Office Depot. "Where's my heater?" he asked. He gave the representative his order number. "Your heater will arrive between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. Tuesday," the rep said. Jason said, "Tuesday? Today's Friday. They told me it would arrive today." The rep said, "I'm sorry, they misinformed you. Kathy had a dream. In the dream, her dead grandma said, 'Help me, my grave is soaking wet.' Kathy said, 'But I'm in America. Where's Daddy? He lives near your grave. Can't he help you?' Grandma said, 'I asked him, but you know your Daddy. He never listened to me when I was alive, so of course he ignores me when I'm dead. You're the only one I can count on.' Kathy thought, 'I must help Grandma.' She flew back to her home country. She went straight to Grandma's grave. An animal had been digging holes everywhere. Kathy hired someone to repair the grave. She visited her dad for a couple of days. Then she went back to look at Grandma's grave again. It looked as good as new. Kathy flew back to New York City. That night, Grandma came to her in another dream. "Thank you, darling," Grandma said. She brought home a small white bag. "Surprise," she said. He asked, "What's in the bag?" She said, "You'll never know until you open it." He said, "I was joking. I already know what's in it. I recognize that white bag. You were at Levan's on 74th Street. Their big fat cookies come in that bag. Did you get the chocolate chip or the oatmeal raisin? I hope you got both." She said, "No, I didn't. The last time I got both, you complained. You ate both cookies after dinner. Then you said that you were going to burst. You said never to bring home more than 1 cookie again." He said, "You're right. It's hard to eat just one." She said, "Well, there's only one. Do you mind if I share it with you?" He said, "Of course not. You split it in half. I'll get us some milk." Maury said, "A 33-year-old Brooklyn woman has been eating pizza since she was 2 years old." Diane asked, "What's so unusual about that? Everyone loves pizza. I've been eating pizza for almost 25 years myself." Maury asked, "Do you eat anything else?" Diane asked, "What do you mean?" Maury asked, "Do you eat anything besides pizza?" Diane said, "Well, of course I eat things besides pizza. Nobody eats just pizza." Maury said, Well, that's why this newspaper article is so interesting. This woman eats only pizza. She has eaten nothing else since she was 2. Diane said, "Get out of here. Nobody can eat just pizza for 31 years. Maury said, "She says she never even thinks about eating other food." Diane asked, "What kind of parents did she have? Who lets a 2-year-old eat only pizza?" Maury said, "I'll tell you who. Her parents probably owned a pizza place." The lottery jackpot was almost $100 million. Chris rarely played because the chance of winning is about 1 in 170 million. That's not even worth a penny bet, Chris thought. But just for the heck of it, he bought a lottery ticket. That night he checked the winning numbers online. His ticket was a winner. He couldn't believe it. He'd never won anything. He took the lump sum payment. After taxes on $50 million, he put $35 million in his bank account. He sent his brother Sal a check for $1 million. Sal couldn't believe it. He called Chris up. "Thank you so much. This is so much money. You must have won the lottery." Chris said, "Yes, the $100 million prize was worth $30 million take home. Isn't that great?" Sal said, "Wait a minute. You took home $30 million, and you sent me, your only kin, just $1 million? Tim, 11, could read the minds of the family's 2 cats. "I know when they're happy," he told his sister Ellen. "I know when they're sad. I know when they're hungry. I know when they're thirsty." Ellen, 9, said, "First of all, cats aren't happy or sad. They're not dogs. Dogs are happy or sad. Cats are just there. Second, you can't just look at a cat and know if it's hungry or thirsty. You only know it's hungry if you see it eating. You only know it's thirsty if you see it drinking." Tim said, "Oh yeah? Watch this. The cats are hungry now. I can read their minds." He opened a can of cat food. Both cats heard the sound of the electric can opener. They came running. Tim put the food into their dishes. The cats started eating. Tim smirked at his sister. She rolled her eyes. Life was hard. Life was tough. John had no family. He had no friends. He had no future. He had given up. In the last month he had probably said, "I wish I was dead," 1,000 times a day. Sometimes he would repeat the words for 5 minutes at a time. All he thought about was death. When he saw a rope, he thought about hanging himself. When he saw a knife, he thought about stabbing himself. He went to the beach. He looked at the ocean. He thought about drowning himself. He walked along the beach. He found an old, slimy green bottle. He picked it up. There was a cork in it. He pulled out the cork. "Maybe the fumes will kill me," he thought. Instead, a genie appeared. "I will grant you any wish," the genie said. "I wish I was dead," John said out of habit. New York State banned the sale of synthetic marijuana today. New York stores have sold the fake pot for about 3 years. The state will fine anyone who continues to sell the product. Stores marketed it as incense. The brand names included Spice and K2. Chemists create fake pot. Users smoke it. Some users have become ill. They've gotten dizzy. They've vomited. They've gotten high blood pressure. Some users have hallucinated. Some have had seizures. Not one user in America has died. "We must remove this drug from the stores and streets," said a New York politician. "We must protect our citizens from harmful drugs like this." A reporter asked, "What about cigarettes? They're harmful." "They cause lung cancer. Lung cancer kills more than 2,000 American smokers every week." The politician said, "We are doing something about cigarettes. We tax them. A pack now costs $12. What more can we do?" The lottery jackpot was over $400 million. Mary and 14 co-workers at a McDonald's pooled their money. Mary bought 61 tickets with the money. She made copies of the tickets. She gave a copy to each co-worker. The lottery numbers were drawn. One of their tickets hit the jackpot. It was worth over $150 million after taxes. "That's $10 million for each of us," said one co-worker. "Where's the winning ticket?" he asked Mary. Mary said she had lost the ticket. Then she said that she had hidden the ticket in McDonald's. Then she said that it was her ticket, not the group's ticket. "I found $1 on the restaurant floor. It was a lucky dollar. I bought my lucky ticket with my lucky dollar," she told a coworker. Then she hired a lawyer. Her lawyer held a press conference. "Why is everyone upset?" he asked. "It's only money." A high school in Ohio had poor attendance. "I've got an idea," said an English teacher at a teachers' meeting. "Most of our students are poor. Let's pay them to attend school." Most of the other teachers agreed. They applauded. The principal laughed. "Pay them? They're already getting a free education. Their education will help them get good jobs. Their education will help them get college degrees. Most of them get free lunches, too. Aren't we doing enough?" The teacher said, "No, we aren't. I presented this idea to my students. They said they will come to school every day if we pay them." The principal said, "Let me think about this." The next week he held another teachers' meeting. "We're going to pay students to come to school," he said. Most of the teachers applauded. "The money is coming out of your salaries," he added. The teachers were silent. He wanted to create the world's most delicious candy bar. He bought a candy bar factory. He experimented with many different ingredients. He created batch after batch of experimental candy. One day he created a superb batch. He shared it with his family and friends. They loved it. He needed a name. His wife suggested One Bite. She said, "1 bite and you're hooked." He advertised One Bite on TV. Everybody loved One Bite. People stopped eating all the other candy bars. The other candy bar factories went out of business. He couldn't keep up with the demand. He bought another factory. Then he bought more factories. One Bite became the only candy bar sold in the world. "You must be so happy with your success," his wife said. He said, "Yes, I am, but now I want to do something else. I want to create the most popular soft drink in the world." The doorbell rang. He opened the door. His wife stood there. She held a brown grocery bag in each hand. The groceries were from Whole Foods on 7th Avenue. She walked into the apartment. She put the bags down. He carried the bags to the refrigerator. Each bag felt almost as heavy as a bowling ball. "Holy moly," he said. "Honey, stop carrying so much food. Do you want a bad back like mine? Just buy half this much in the future." She said, "Buy half as much? Then I have to make 2 trips. 2 trips take twice as much time. I'm trying to make money so we can buy our own condo. It's going to take me 10 years to make that money. If I carry just 1 bag, it will take me 20 years. In 20 years, we might both be dead." He put the groceries away. "Half of America's adults drink alcohol," said Zach at a news conference. He was promoting his new medication. "Every day some of them drink too much. They get headaches and stomach aches. They throw up. That's because they have hangovers. There are many hangover cures out there, but none of them work. Oh, some of them seem to work sometimes. People swear by things like eggs, buttermilk, tomato juice, and coffee. However, the only thing that always works for everyone is time. Until now, that is. I did a lot of research. I did a lot of experiments. I have come up with a hangover cure. I call it Hangover Helper. It costs only $80. We hook you up to an IV. A solution of vitamins goes directly into your bloodstream. In just 30 minutes, I guarantee your hangover will be over. You'll be ready to drink again in no time." William was in his first wheelchair race. There were 5 other contestants. The age group was 12 to 15. William rolled up to the starting line. He was in the number 1 lane. He said hello to the boy on his right. He was in the number 2 lane. William asked, "Is this your first race?" The boy said yes. William asked, "Did you train for this race?" The boy said, "Train? Who cares about training? I don't care if I win or lose. I'm just out here to meet other boys like me. Maybe I can make a new friend. I don't have any friends in wheelchairs. I have a few friends, but they have 2 good legs. Sometimes I feel like I'm a burden to them." William said, "I feel that way too. Maybe we can be friends." The race hadn't even started, but William already felt like a winner. More than a dozen policemen were at 6th Avenue and 33rd Street. They were between J.C. Penney and Macy's. Most were on bicycles. 6th Avenue is one way north. A traffic light is at 33rd Street. Policemen were pulling over bicyclists by the handful. Jeremy asked a policeman, "What are you writing tickets for?" The policeman said, "The usual violations, running red lights, riding against traffic, riding on the sidewalk, not having bells. Some bikers think the rules don't apply to them. We're giving them a wake-up call." Jeremy asked how much a ticket cost. The policeman told him. Jeremy said, "Well, $30 isn't too bad, is it?" The policeman said, "I didn't say $30, I said $130. As the policeman talked, Jeremy watched a biker riding past. He was very tall and was riding very slow. He rode south right past 5 policemen writing tickets. He disappeared down 6th Avenue. Samantha and Ira bumped into each other on the sidewalk. Ira apologized. No, I apologize," said Samantha. Ira said, "Believe me, it's not your fault. I'm always bumping into things or people. I'm blind." Samantha said, "You're blind? Guess what? I'm blind too. I've never bumped into a blind person before." "How long have you been blind?" Ira said, "I lost my sight last year. I had a skateboarding accident." Samantha said, "I'm sorry to hear that. How old are you?" Ira said he was 15. Samantha said she was 16. She said she was born blind. Ira said, "You were born blind? Then you've never seen anything. You've never seen yourself. You've never seen the sky. But you know what? You're lucky. You don't know what you're missing." Samantha said, "No, you're the lucky one. You at least have seen people and things. You have those wonderful memories." Sandy wanted to pitch in the major leagues. His college coach said, "You need a new pitch. You need to keep batters guessing. Learn how to throw a knuckleball." Sandy learned how to throw a killer knuckleball. In his senior year, he had 9 wins and 2 losses. The Yankees signed him. Sandy's knuckleball was a thing of beauty. It zigged, it zagged, it went up, it went down, it went right, it went left, it slowed down, it sped up. Batters either swung at it or looked at it. They never hit it. His knuckleball made many batters look silly. One batter swung at a pitch that went behind him. Another batter swung 3 times at one pitch. The umpire called him out. Sandy retired after 15 years. In his last game, batters hit his knuckleball 8 times. Sandy said, "My knuckleball doesn't dance anymore. I'm not pitching anymore." "Did you hear?" Andy asked. Donna asked, "Did I hear what?" Andy said, "Ground beef contains pink slime. I don't know what pink slime is, but it sounds bad." Donna said, "I'll tell you what pink slime is. It's trimmings from the cows. They used to put it into dog food. Then some guy figured out how to process it. He added ammonia to kill the bacteria. That way the slime was fit for humans. He sold it to beef processors. They added it to ground beef. The slime made the beef cheaper. Pink slime has been around for years. It won't make you sick. It just sounds yucky." Andy said, "I bet it looks yucky too. Well, no more ground beef for me. I don't care if it is fit for humans. I wonder what else I've been eating all these years." Donna said, "You don't want to know." Wade, 12, was in a corner market. He looked around. He couldn't see anybody. He slipped a candy bar into his jacket pocket. It was a Butterfinger. He loved Butterfingers. He looked around again. The coast was clear. He walked past the clerk. He walked toward the front door. The clerk said, "Stop, please." Wade ignored the clerk. The clerk shouted, "Stop or I'll call the police." Wade stopped. He walked back to the clerk. The clerk said, "Do you see that mirror?" Wade looked up near the ceiling. There was a big convex mirror. The candy bar section was reflected in the mirror. The clerk had seen everything. "Give me the candy bar," the clerk said. Wade dug it out of his pocket. He gave it to the clerk. "Shame on you," the clerk said. Wade said, "It's just a candy bar." The clerk said, "Get out of here." Jimmy was on a mountain road. He came to a T. He slowed down and turned right. He didn't see the gravel on the road. His motorcycle went out from under him. He landed hard. He got up. His right leg couldn't bear any weight. A man driving a pickup pulled over. "Are you okay?" he asked. Jimmy said, "I think I broke my leg." Other people stopped. They helped the pickup driver load the bike into his pickup. The driver said, "I'll take you home. Where do you live?" Jimmy lived 10 miles from the driver's apartment. The driver took Jimmy home. A neighbor helped the driver roll the bike into Jimmy's garage. The driver took Jimmy to the nearby hospital. Jimmy said, "I can't thank you enough. Here's $120 for your trouble." The driver refused the money. "I can't accept money just for helping someone out," he said. Neil saw an interesting Craigslist ad. It said, "MasterCard auditions, no experience necessary, 18 to 65. Maybe I can become an actor, Neil thought. Several days later he went to Pearl Studios on 8th Avenue. He went into a room on the 4th floor. About 25 people were sitting quietly in folding chairs. Neil signed in on the roll sheet. He grabbed a paper slip that said mail. He took a seat. He memorized the lines on the paper slip. A woman entered the room an hour later. She called his name. She directed him to another room. A woman sat behind a table. "Please say your lines. Pretend you're talking to a policeman about your friend," she said. "Don't be nervous," Neil told himself. He recited the lines, nervously. She said, "Thank you." He left. He wasn't nervous anymore. He was angry. He was angry because he had gotten nervous. She looked at the TV. Square yellow notes were taped to it. She looked at the notes. One said, "Take her out regularly." Another said, "Listen to her." Another said, "Don't argue with her." Another said, "Support her." Another said, "Help her without being asked." She looked at him. He was sitting at his desk. "What are all these notes for?" she asked. "They're reminders," he said. "I can't look at the TV without seeing the notes. I read the notes during the commercials sometimes. They remind me of what I'm supposed to do." She tore all the notes off the TV. She threw them in the trash. "Hey, what are you doing?" he asked. She said, "You need notes? You need to post notes on the TV? You shouldn't have to remind yourself of these sentiments. They should be a part of you. They should be in your heart." He was in the laundry room of the apartment building. A female worker was mopping the floor. He said, "I can't believe how empty the laundry room is. I was able to wash 6 loads at once." She said, "Yes, almost all the washers are empty, and nobody left any clothes in the dryers overnight." He asked, "People do that?" She said, "All the time. When we find abandoned clothes, we put them on the shelf over there. We let them sit there for a week. If nobody claims them, we throw them out." He asked, "How often does that happen?" She said, "Almost every week. It's hard to believe, isn't it? How can someone forget their clothes?" He said, "Especially just washed clothes. Do you ever see clothes worth keeping?" She said, "Not yet, but if I do, I'll take them home. That'll be a small bonus for working here." Jerry had a son. He named him John. Jerry didn't want John to be the best. He didn't even want John to be better. He wanted John just to be average. That way our boy won't get hurt. You get hurt if you try to climb too high. It's safer to be part of the crowd, Jerry told his wife. John went to a public school. He was an average student. When John got straight C's in school, Jerry said, "That's my boy." John graduated from high school. He got an average job. He made an average salary. He married an average girl. He lived an average life. At his dad's deathbed, John said, "Dad, I never let you down. How could I? You wanted average, and you got average. You never pushed me to excel. You never pushed me to reach for the stars. What might I have been? The doctor said, 'You have high cholesterol, you are pre-diabetic. We don't want you to become diabetic. Start drinking black coffee. Eat brown rice instead of white rice. Eat less meat and more fish. Knock off all desserts. Eat more vegetables and fruits. Eat less of everything. You need to lose at least 15 pounds. Exercise more. Use the stairs." Emily said, "But doctor, I'm in real estate here in Manhattan. I already use the stairs and walk-ups almost every day." He said, "Great. I'll see you again in 3 months." She went home. She told her husband the bad news. "Pre-diabetic," he said. "How can that be? You eat right, you climb stairs daily, you have no family history. It doesn't make sense." She said, "I know why. You call me sugar all the time, that's why. Stop calling me sugar, and don't call me honey or sweetie either." His old van was parked on Fifth Avenue. He was a street vendor. He brought a tiny sewing machine out of his van. "This is 100 years old," he said. "It works great. It's manually powered. I'll never sell it." His sidewalk stand was next to his van. A sign said, "We sell old stuff only." Under an awning were cardboard boxes. They contained hundreds of old maps. "I've done this forever, but now it's ending," he said. "I can't afford gas for my van. I can't afford my rent in Brooklyn. A friend of mine lives in Vermont. She said I could stay with her for a while, so I'm moving up there when summer ends. I'll be starting a new life at the age of 65. Life is something else, isn't it? You just never know. You never know where it'll take you. You never know how it'll end." She was sitting in Washington Square Park. She was young and pretty. The huge arch was to her right. The fountain was to her left. It was a warm, sunny Saturday. 2 empty beach chairs and a sign were next to her. The sign said, "Willing to listen." Earl walked over. "I have 2 questions. 1, does this cost anything? 2, what's the point?" She said, "First, it's free. Second, people like to talk. They like to talk about themselves, their lives, and their problems. That's what I'm here for. I listen to them talk. When they finish, they leave. They feel better after they talk. I feel better after I listen. I never try to solve their problems. I never give advice. I never listen to rants about religion, politics, or conspiracies. But I listen to everything else. I've been doing this for 8 years when the weather's nice." He was standing at the sink. He had a Fuji apple in his hand. He was digging at the apple with his fingernail. He was mumbling. "What is your problem?" his wife asked. He said, "What's my problem? Who invented these stupid stickers? Who decided to put stickers on fruit? Why are these stickers so hard to peel off? Eating fruit should be a pleasure, but these stickers ruin the pleasure. Fruit didn't used to have stickers, you know. Those were the days. We just washed an apple and ate it. Now we have to peel the sticker off before we can wash it. Why aren't Americans revolting? Who sticks these stickers on fruit? Is that a real job? Or have they modified all fruit so stickers grow on them naturally?" His wife said, "Stop complaining. Be glad there isn't a sticker on each one of your red seedless grapes." It was winter. His apartment was cold. He needed pajama bottoms to wear over his boxer shorts. He went to Conway's on 34th Street. They always had great deals on clothes. He found some bottoms for only $4. What a deal. They looked okay. He paid for them. He went home. His apartment had a lot of natural light. He examined them. He noticed a purple stain on the inside of the waistband. Where'd this come from, he wondered. Then he saw 2 more purple stains on the inside of the seat. Then he saw a hole in the crotch. Did somebody wear these and return them, he wondered. But the original tag was still on the pajama bottoms. He didn't even try them on. He took them back to Conway's. He got his money back. He wore an old pair of jogging pants for the rest of the winter. He went to an annual bicycle show. It was on Hudson Street in the Skylight, Soho. He had never been there. It sounded like a nice place, bright with lots of natural light, he thought. He went on a sunny Sunday morning. The Skylight Soho was a red brick building. It was about 30 feet tall. He didn't see one window. It looked like a warehouse. He went inside. He paid $20. He went into the main hall. About 60 exhibitors were inside. Bright lights illuminated the hall. Where's all the natural light, he wondered. He looked up. There were 5 big skylights. Paint completely covered 4 of them. Paint covered 80% of the fifth one. What a joke, he thought. How can they call this the Skylight Soho? Would you call a table with no legs a table? They should call it the Windowless Warehouse Soho, he thought. 2 harmless cheetahs attacked Hannah, a 60-year-old woman. She was posing with the cats in a game park. The cats didn't seem to mind. Park officials didn't mind. Her husband was taking pictures. A little girl was standing nearby. Suddenly, one cheetah attacked the little girl. Hannah tried to protect her. Both cheetahs turned on Hannah. They clawed her. One tried to put her head in its mouth. Her husband didn't try to save her. He continued to take pictures. Hannah played dead. Moments later, a park official arrived. He had a big stick. He used the stick to chase the cats away. An ambulance took Hannah to the hospital. Doctors treated her injuries. They released her. Her husband posted all the pictures online. A park official said, "We thought these cats were harmless. They had never attacked anyone before." Hannah forgave her husband. "He's old, you know," she said. She won the jackpot. Her lottery ticket was worth $32 million after taxes. She presented the ticket to lottery officials. They asked her to sign it. She was too nervous to sign it. She asked her son, 40, to sign it for her. He didn't sign her name to the ticket. He signed his name. He then collected the $32 million. He bought 4 houses for himself. He bought 10 cars for himself. He bought his mom a new car. He moved her into one of his new houses. He gave her $125,000. He invested the rest of the millions in stocks. He said, "Mom doesn't know how to manage millions of dollars. I'm protecting her from herself. I'm protecting her from con artists." Mom said, "Shame on him. It's my money to spend as I like. I thought I raised him better than this. I'll see him in court." Sean went to the bicycle show in Soho. There were about 60 exhibitors. There were bikes and bike locks. There were bike clothes and bike lights. There were bike helmets and bike gears. One exhibit was for Iriday bikes. Sean said, "That's a great name for a bike. I ride." The exhibitor said, "It's pronounced Iriday, not I ride. Iriday is Italian for iris." Sean said, "Who knew?" "Well, they ought to call it I ride. It's easier to pronounce." He visited a bicycle painter. He asked, "Do you paint bicycles or do you paint pictures of bicycles?" She said, "I paint pictures of bicycles. People send me photos of their bikes. I've been doing this for over 10 years. I also create bike earrings and bike coloring books." He saw a Mini Cooper. There were Cooper bikes next to it. Cooper makes bikes too, he thought. Who knew? He is 60 years old. He rode his first motorcycle when he was 13. Since then, he's owned about 20 motorcycles. He's had about 10 accidents. Some of the accidents put him in the hospital. His wife worries about him. "I wish you would sell your motorcycle," she often says. "Play golf, go bowling, find a safe hobby." He ignores her. "I was born to ride," he often says. Last month he went for a ride. He went through a curve too fast. He crashed into a mountainside. An ambulance took him to the hospital. His arm and leg were broken. His wife had to care for him at home. Her sister said, "Your husband is very selfish. He doesn't care that you worry about him. He doesn't care that he might get paralyzed or killed. He only cares about riding his motorcycle. You should have left him years ago." It was midnight. No other cars were on the 2-lane road. She saw headlights far behind her. They got closer. Suddenly she saw red lights. She heard a siren. She couldn't believe it. She hadn't been speeding. She hadn't been weaving. Why was a policeman pulling her over? More important, was he a real policeman or a fake policeman? A week ago, someone had murdered a driver on this very road. It had happened late at night. The driver had been shot. TV news reporters suspected a fake policeman. She didn't pull over. She tried to dial 911. Her phone battery was dead. She kept driving. The car kept following her. The lights kept flashing. The siren kept blaring. She came to a 24-hour gas station. She pulled in. The car kept going. Was it a police car or not? She couldn't tell. She asked the clerk to dial 911. Bo is 3 years old. He's a beagle. He is Jason's pride and joy. Jason said, "I love Bo like he's my son." I know that sounds crazy. But if you met him, you'd love him too. He has these big floppy ears. He snores when he sleeps. He chases his tail. He licks my face like it's an ice cream cone. He's so much fun. And he loves me like I'm his dad. Jason's ex-girlfriend is Jenny. Jenny and Jason raised Bo together. Jenny loves Bo too. In fact, she picked him out at the animal shelter. She says that she is Bo's mom. Jason broke up with Jenny last month. Jenny moved to Queens. She took Bo with her. Jason wants his son back. He is suing Jenny. Jenny said, "Bo and I are a package deal. If Jason wants Bo back, he has to take me back." She was a real estate salesperson. An apartment was newly available on the Upper East Side. She went to 91st Street to preview the new listing. She used a key to open the building door. She walked up to the second floor. She had a sensitive nose. She smelled something. It smelled like a dead something. She walked up to the third floor. The smell was worse. She took a tissue out of her purse. She held it over her nose. She walked up to the fourth floor. The smell was foul. How do people live here, she wondered. She debated whether to continue upstairs. She squeezed her nostrils together. She breathed through her mouth. She walked slowly up to the fifth floor. The smell was nauseating. She opened the door to apartment 5B. She almost vomited. She hurried downstairs. She went outside. She took deep breaths of fresh air. Ray was at the 99-cent store on 32nd Street. He was third in line. He was behind 2 men. That was good. Men usually paid with cash. They usually bought only a few items at a time. But the man at the head of the line was taking forever. Ray looked hopefully at the other lines, but at least 3 people were in every line. Ray finally made it to the front of the line. He already had $2 bills in his hand. The clerk rang up $2.58. Ray had coins in his pocket. He started digging for coins. Then he heard, "Can you hurry it up? People are waiting in line here." He turned around. The third person behind him was a bald man. Ray said, "Excuse me, sir. I waited to get here. Now you can wait to get here." Ray continued digging out his coins. The annual food festival near Madison Square Park occurs each May. About 30 vendors participate. Huge, colorful umbrellas stand over 40 small, round tables. Jack and Betty decided to visit the festival. It was 8:30 p.m. "It should be fun and delicious. I just hope it's still open," Betty said. They walked to the festival. They visited each booth. They read each menu. They walked around the tables. They looked at what people were eating. Betty saw something she liked. She said to the diner, "Excuse me, that looks delicious. Can you tell me what it is? What booth did you get it from?" The diner told her. Betty went over to that booth. She asked for that dish. The cook said, "I'm sorry, but we're out of that dish. In fact, we're getting ready to close down. We'll have plenty tomorrow, though. Just try to be here before 8:30. "Mommy, I have to pee," said Sandra. They had left their apartment 30 minutes ago. Mom said, "Honey, didn't you pee before we left home?" Sandra said no, because she didn't have to. Mom asked her if she could wait a few minutes. "How many minutes is a few?" Sandra asked. Mom said a few was just a couple. Sandra said, "A couple is 2. I can wait 2 minutes." They continued walking in Midtown Manhattan. "Mommy, I can't wait any longer," Sandra groaned. Mom said, "Just try to hold it, honey. There's a Starbucks around the corner." They entered the Starbucks. Luckily, the restroom was empty. Mom waited outside the restroom for Sandra to finish. Sandra finished. "Do you feel better now?" Mom asked. Sandra said yes. "That bathroom was so clean," she said. "I'm going to use the bathroom at Starbucks all the time when I grow up." The teacher gave the students coloring books. She gave the students crayons. Mason opened his coloring book. He found a picture of a bike. He loved bikes, but he didn't have one yet. His dad had said, You'll get a bike when you're 7. Mason was counting the days. There were 355 days to go. He had told his dad, I want a red bike. Mason colored the bike. He colored everything red. The frame and seat were red. The chain and handlebar were red. The tires and spokes were red. The pedals were red. He showed his picture to the teacher. She said, That's very nice, Mason. He showed his picture to Sophia. She laughed. Everything is red, she said. They don't make bikes like that. Mason said, Maybe they don't, but I will. I'll use red paint and red tape. I'll have the reddest bike in the world. 2 bank robbers were talking. You know, said Jesse, we used to write, This is a stick-up on a piece of paper. Then the bank teller gave us the money. But times have changed. We should use modern technology. For our next job, you give the teller your cell phone. I'll be on the other end of the line. I'll tell the teller it's a stick-up. You don't have to say nothing. A week later, Clyde walked into a Brooklyn bank. He wore a hoodie. He handed his phone to the teller. Jesse told the teller, This is a stick-up. The teller gave Clyde bags of money. Clyde walked out of the bank. He got into Jesse's car. Jesse drove off. We did it. We're now the original cell phone bank robbers, Jesse said. He laughed. Frowning, Clyde said, I forgot my cell phone. Seconds later, Jesse's phone rang. The restaurant was on West 31st Street. They sat down at an outside table. They hadn't eaten there before. A waiter came. He brought 2 menus. He left. They looked at the menus. Scott saw dried-out food on his menu. He frowned. The waiter returned with 2 glasses of water. His fingers were on the rims of both glasses. He left. Scott said, Did you see that? His fingers were all over the glasses. Look, I can see his fingerprints. Mary said, Ask the waiter to bring us 2 more glasses. Scott said, But he'll ask why. She said, Tell him the water tastes bad. He said, But he'll bring us more of the same. Matt was walking on the sidewalk next to Bryant Park. A woman stopped him. Would you like a free book? She asked. Matt asked, What kind of book? It was the New Testament. Matt asked, Do I have to give you a donation? She said no. He said, I'm not very religious. She said, That's okay. All we hope is that you read the book. Maybe it will help you. Matt asked, Do I look like I need help? She said, We all need help, don't we? You're a lucky man if you don't need help. Matt said, Well, I do need help, but I don't think I'll find help in that book. She said, You'll never know if you don't read it. Matt took the book. She asked, Would you like me to pray for you? That's creepy, Matt thought. He said, No thanks, I can pray for myself. Facebook's initial public offering was May 18th. CNBC was covering the event live. Ian went online at 11 a.m. Shares were selling at $39 each. He decided to gamble his entire savings of $5,000. He placed a market order to buy 128 shares. He waited for the order to fill. Then he remembered something. If the share price increased, he would have to pay the higher price. There is no maximum price per share for a market order. He should have placed a limit order. A limit order sets a maximum price per share. He clicked on a button to cancel his order. His computer screen displayed cancel pending. He called his stockbroker. The representative listened to Ian's problem. She said, If your order fills first, the cancel won't apply. If the share price doubles later today, you might owe another $5,000. Next time, use a limit order. Good luck. Gus was a wealthy man. He owned corporations, buildings, ships, and planes. He owned land and 3 islands. He had 2 children, both sons. He loved Sam. He tolerated Earl. Earl was a lazy worker. Sam was a hard worker. Gus did not want to split his fortune equally with his sons. He decided to will Sam 90% and Earl 10% of his fortune. When Gus finally died, he was worth $100 billion. Sam got 90% of Gus's fortune. Earl got 10%. Earl was upset. This isn't fair, he told his brother. We're both his sons. Why should you get so much and I so little?" Sam said, "So little? You have $10 billion in cash and assets. Most people would love to be in your shoes. Stop feeling sorry for yourself. If you want $90 billion, use your cash, assets, and brains to make it." The woman yelled at him. "You're going the wrong way," she yelled. "Why don't you obey the rules?" She was pretty. He stopped. He got off his bike. He said, "I was just trying to save time." She said, "Well, you won't be saving time if you injure someone. In fact, a collision might injure you too. A collision might damage your bike. The police might question you. You might end up in the hospital. You might spend days in the hospital. Your bike might end up in a repair shop. The victim might sue you. You might end up in court. You might spend days in court. All of these things will take time, a lot of time. They will cost money, too. They might cost you an arm and a leg. Bike accidents happen daily in Manhattan. Do you want to be next?" He asked, "Are you single?" They were walking toward the elevator. He was sucking on a paper clip. They got to the elevator. He pushed the down button. They waited. He decided to throw out the paper clip, but no trash can was nearby. He didn't want to throw the paper clip on the floor. The elevator door opened. He dropped the paper clip down the elevator shaft. His wife said, "What are you doing? The elevator shaft isn't a trash can. It's part of the elevator system. Maybe that paper clip will land in the motor. Maybe the motor will burn out. Maybe we'll crash to the floor." She walked out of the elevator. He followed her. "What are you doing?" he asked. She said, "I'm taking the stairs, and so are you." They returned home later that day. A sign on the elevator said, "Please use stairs." She said, "I hope nobody died." She said, "Let's do our school project about bikers breaking rules." He agreed. They took notepads to Union Square. They watched and waited. They put check marks next to each violation. After 2 hours, they went home. They counted their check marks. 45 bikers went through red lights. 50 bikers traveled against traffic. 20 bikers rode on the sidewalk. 30 bikers rode through crosswalks while pedestrians were using the crosswalks. 5 bikers rode with no hands. 10 bikes had no bells. "We need to go out tonight," she said. "We need to count the bikes without headlights and taillights." He said, "I'm sure we'll see plenty. Too many riders think the city lights are bright enough. They think everyone can see them. But the biggest problem isn't even a rule violation. More than half the riders don't wear helmets. They don't appreciate how their skulls can crack like an eggshell." 1 year of practice was all he needed. He practiced bowling for a year. Then he entered a pro tournament. He bowled 300 games for a perfect 900 series. He did that 6 times against 6 competitors. He won the tournament. He practiced pitching a baseball for a year. He joined the New York Yankees. He pitched a perfect game against the Boston Red Sox. He struck out every batter on just 3 pitches. He practiced tennis for a year. He entered a pro tournament. Nobody could return his serves or volleys. He won the tournament. He practiced golf for a year. He qualified for the U.S. Open. He birdied all 72 holes in the U.S. Open. He won the Open by 70 strokes. He retired from all 4 sports. Asked why, he said, "I believe in giving back. I'm going to write a book called Practice Makes Perfect." He turned on his TV. The price for Facebook was hovering at $39 a share. He placed a market order online for 128 shares. Then he realized he had made a mistake. He should have placed a limit order. A market order could fill at any price. A limit order could fill at a price no higher than his limit price. The order hadn't filled yet. He tried to cancel his order. It didn't cancel. He called his stockbroker. In early spring, her eyes got itchy. He bought eye drops for her. He bought antihistamines for her. She took the antihistamines. They helped, but not completely. She didn't take the eye drops. "Why don't you try the drops?" he asked. She said she hated eye drops. He said, "But it takes only a few seconds to put drops in your eyes. The itching continues all day. Would you rather suffer all day or for just a few seconds? She said, Of course I'd rather suffer for just a few seconds, but not if it involves eye drops. I hate them. He asked, But why? Did something bad happen the last time you used them? She said, No, nothing bad ever happened because I've never used them. He asked, Well, how do you know you hate them if you've never used them? She said, Because I just know, that's how. She came home from work. Her son was loading up his car. She asked, What are you doing? He said, I'm moving out. She said, This is sort of sudden, isn't it? He said he had been laid off that morning. She said, Well, that's too bad. But you can find another job around here, can't you? He said, Mom, I grew up here. I went to school here. I've had a few jobs here. I think losing this job is a sign. It's telling me it's time. It's time to move on and move up. My future is elsewhere. I'm moving to the big city. She said, Well, that sounds nice. Jacksonville is only 60 miles away. You can come home every weekend. He said, Mom, when I say the big city, I don't mean Jacksonville, Florida. I mean New York City, New York. She couldn't stop the tears. It was Evan's first time to walk alone to the school bus stop. The bus stop was a block from his home. It was next to a bodega. A bodega worker saw Evan. He offered Evan, 6, a soda. He led Evan down into the basement. He choked him to death. He put his body into a plastic bag. He put the bag on the sidewalk with other bags. Garbage workers put the bag into the garbage truck. Evan's body disappeared forever. The worker moved out of Manhattan. He got married and had a little girl. He told a relative he had killed a boy. The relative eventually told the police. The police questioned the worker. He confessed to the crime. After 30 years, Evan's parents finally learned what had happened to him. Why did he kill our little boy? What did Evan ever do to him? Asked his mom. Fleet Week occurs every May. 2 U.S. Navy ships were at Piers 90 and 92. Saturday afternoon, Herb walked by himself almost 30 blocks to the Intrepid Museum at 46th Street. He then joined the crowd walking north to 54th Street. Everyone was walking on the bike path. The southbound bikers had to ride in the northbound bikers' lane. Herb came to the 2 Navy ships. He admired them through the chain-link fence. Which one should I visit first, he wondered. He got up to 52nd Street. He saw a huge line to his left. It was the line of people waiting to visit the ships. The line was longer than a football field. There were 4 loops in the line. The line wasn't even moving. He was already tired from walking. He certainly wasn't going to stand in that long line. Maybe I'll come early tomorrow, he thought. Few diners were in the steak restaurant. Jody saw 2 tables that he liked. My friends and I are eating here Sunday. Which of these tables gets less foot traffic? He asked a worker. She said, That cabinet behind table 81 contains all the dishes and glasses. Table 73 is much quieter. Sunday, Jody and 3 friends went to the restaurant. 8 diners were at nearby table 74. 4 diners were at nearby table 72. A diner's purse sat on the floor beside table 74. Throughout dinner, the waiter and busboys edged their way past her purse. Throughout dinner, Jody felt one worker after another brush past his chair. He couldn't move his chair or the table out of the worker's way. Table 81 and tables near it were empty. Jody never saw one worker visit the cabinet. How was everything tonight? The waiter asked after dinner. Fine, Jody lied. Jerry had a long face. What's the problem? Asked Ben, his college roommate. This girl in my speech class won't go out with me, Jerry said. Ben asked, Did she give you a reason? Jerry said no. Well, there could be several reasons, said Ben. Maybe she has a boyfriend. Maybe she's going for the dean's list. Maybe she doesn't like your looks. Maybe she doesn't like your personality. But I think I know the real reason. Jerry asked, What's that? Ben said, The same reason most people don't want you for a roommate. You smoke. Your clothes smell, your breath smells, your hair smells. You're infecting people with second-hand lung cancer. Who wants to date a guy like that? I'm sure she's a non-smoker. Forget about her. You need to find a girl who smokes. Jerry said, I did that once. Kissing her was like licking an ashtray. A vice president of a Manhattan bank needed an assistant. He told his secretary to put an ad on Craigslist. I want recent MBA graduates, he said. About 200 applicants responded to the detailed ad. The secretary made a list of the applicants. She organized them by sex, school, and languages spoken. She presented the list to her boss. He didn't even look at it. He said, As you know, I went to Drexel, so I'm partial to Drexel graduates. Of course, I can't put that in the ad. How many Drexel graduates are there? She said there were 9. I have a slightly jealous wife. I can't hire a woman, he said. His secretary said, There are 6 male Drexel graduates. He asked, How many speak Japanese? She said there were 2. He said, Call them up. Find out if either of them plays golf. I'll interview the golfer. The Big Apple Barbecue was at Madison Square Park. It occurs every June for one weekend. There were live musicians on a music stage. There were 2 beer gardens. There were ice cream floats and fried pies. But mostly there was meat, barbecued meat. There were almost 20 barbecue vendors. They sold baby back ribs. They sold smoked sausage. They sold pulled pork shoulder. They sold beef brisket. There were long lines at every vendor. A barbecue plate was only $8. What's beef brisket? Simon asked a vendor. She said, It's breast meat. It's boneless. You can order it fatty or lean. Simon ordered fatty brisket. He got 4 small pieces. No wonder it's only $8, he thought. But the meat was delicious. He threw the empty plate into one of the many trash cans. A woman standing nearby said, This trash can is the only place where there is no line. He peeled the orange. He separated all the sections. He put them on a plate. He took them to his wife. She took a bite. This orange is no good, she said. There's no juice. Where's the juice? He said, Well, not all oranges are juicy, honey. Oranges are just like people. Some are beautiful and some are ugly. That's an ugly orange. I'll get you another one. She said, No, you eat this one. Then you'll appreciate how ugly it is. He said, No, I'll take your word for it. She said, No, if you eat it, you'll remember it. Then you'll be more careful about selecting them. He said, Selecting them? What's to select? An orange is an orange. They all look the same. She said, No, they're not. They look the same, but they don't weigh the same. Compare them. The heavier ones are the juicier ones. Mickey got on the narrow wooden escalator at Macy's. He was going down. An old lady was on the step in front of him. A man and woman got on the steps right behind Mickey. The man started talking loudly. Mickey turned around to look at him. He didn't notice Mickey's glare. Mickey put up with the loud talking for 2 flights. At the 6th floor landing, he stood aside. He let the couple pass by. He got on the escalator step directly behind them. He pulled out his cell phone. He started talking loudly to nobody. They both looked at him. He ignored them. He continued talking loudly about nothing to nobody. The man stopped talking. The couple stood aside at the next landing. Mickey got on the escalator. Still talking, he turned around to see where they were. They were still on the landing, watching him go down. Nora walked from her 10th floor apartment to the elevator bank. The building had 6 elevators. She pushed the down elevator button. She waited. The bell rang and a red light lit up. She casually walked over to the farthest elevator, but the door was already closing. She had to stick her arm into the gap. The door reopened. She got into the elevator. Since when does the door close so quickly, she wondered. An old woman was in the elevator. She quickly pushed the closed door button. Nora realized what had happened. The old woman was in a hurry. She had pushed the closed door button on the 10th floor. That's why the door had closed so quickly. Nora was annoyed. She pushed the button for floor 7. Just before the door opened, Nora pushed all the buttons for floors 6 through 2. Nora got out at the 7th floor. There was a huge dinner at the United Nations. The dinner honored Dr. Marco Marx. He was named the world's greatest doctor. The President of the United States presented him the award. "Why did he get that award?" asked Luke. Nancy said, "You don't know? He found a cure for heart disease. He found a cure for cancer. He found a cure for strokes. He found a cure for tuberculosis. He found a cure for malaria. He's trying to find a cure for diabetes. Millions of people are alive because of his work. He deserves hundreds of awards." But he doesn't want them. Award dinners interrupt his work. He works 16 hours a day. In 2013, they will finish building One World Trade Center. It's also known as the Freedom Tower. It will be the tallest building in Manhattan. "Tall schmall," said Hal. 10 years to build it. They built both Twin Towers in just 7 years. Those were beautiful buildings. Cheryl said, "Beautiful? Are you kidding? They were 2 tall rectangles. What's so beautiful about rectangles?" Hal said, "They were more than just rectangles. They had inner beauty. They were the heart of our city. Almost every film made in the city featured the towers. I miss them. Why didn't they just rebuild them? That would have shown the terrorists. They couldn't say, 'Look, we destroyed the Twin Towers.' Everyone would say, 'Excuse me, I still see the Twin Towers. You didn't destroy anything.'" Cheryl said, "Well, they destroyed thousands of people and their loving families." Hal said, "Yes, that can't be rebuilt." Robin did not buy Google when it went public. He had $20,000 in savings. But he was afraid. He didn't want to risk all his savings. Google's stock price almost tripled in the first year. Robin's $20,000 investment would have been worth almost $60,000. He has regretted his failure to invest ever since. Today, Google's stock price is more than 5 times the original price. Robin's $20,000 investment would be worth $100,000. He kicks himself for not investing, but he learned something. It's better to act than not act. Stock is like a pretty girl. If you like what you see, ask her out. If you don't ask, you might spend years wondering what if. So when Facebook went public, Robin invested all his savings. He was not going to repeat his Google mistake. Facebook's stock went south, but Robin doesn't regret his decision. At least he pulled the trigger. Stacy's BlackBerry stopped working properly. The trackball wouldn't scroll up. She took her phone to the Verizon store. A worker said, "You need a new phone. We'll send you one. Then we'll transfer your contacts to it." Several days later, Stacy took her old and new BlackBerries to Verizon. A worker tried to transfer Stacy's contacts. None transferred. He tried again. This time, some contacts transferred. He tried again. This time, there were many duplicate contacts. "This isn't working," said Stacy. The worker said, "Go to BlackBerry's website. Follow the instructions for backup and restore. That might work." That evening, Stacy spent 2 hours on her phone with a technician, but they weren't able to transfer her contacts. The next morning, Stacy returned to Verizon. She explained her problem to a worker. He said, "Let me try to clean the trackball." Minutes later, Stacy's old phone was working like new. Sandra went for her annual checkup. Her health insurance covered the entire cost. She didn't even have to pay a copay. After the exam, her doctor said, "You seem to be in good health. We'll just wait for the blood test results." A week later, her doctor's secretary called. "Can you come in next week?" she asked. When Sandra came in, Dr. Blake said, "Your cholesterol is high. You should eat less meat and more fish." Several weeks later, Sandra got a bill for the second office visit. Sandra called the office. She said, "Why did you charge me for the second office visit? Dr. Blake talked to me for less than 5 minutes. She could have just called me. Why did I have to come into the office? That's not fair." The secretary said, "I'm sorry you feel that way. Call your insurance company. Maybe they'll adjust the bill for you." He opened an email from AARP. It said, "Enter for a chance to collect $50,000 for retirement." That sounds easy, he thought. Of course, the chance was probably 1 in 10 million. But that's better than nothing, he thought. He clicked on the link. He clicked on, "I have read the official rules." He clicked on Get Started. The new link asked for his email address. It asked for a password. It asked for his name. It asked for his address. It asked for other information. He filled in all the blanks. His wife walked into the room. "What are you doing?" she asked. He said, "I'm entering a contest for $50,000. She said, "Why waste your time? Spend your time networking with others. Spend your time writing a book. Spend your time inventing something. You'll have a better chance of making $50,000, and you'll be prouder of doing so." Ross asked, "Do old people smell bad?" Sharon said, "They sure do. It's called decay." Ross laughed. He said, "No, it isn't. Decay happens to dead things. Old people aren't dead yet. They're still alive." Sharon said, "Okay, how about ripe instead of decay? Whatever you call it, I don't like to be near it." Ross said, "Well, a new study just came out. It says that old people don't smell bad at all. Researchers had old people sleep in T-shirts. They had middle-aged people sleep in T-shirts. They had teenagers sleep in T-shirts. Each person slept in the same T-shirt for 5 nights straight. Then the researchers collected all the T-shirts. They didn't wash them. They asked volunteers to smell the T-shirts. The volunteers said that the old people's T-shirts smelled the best. They said that their T-shirts actually smelled pleasant." Sharon said, "Pleasant? How old were the volunteers?" She was in Staples. She told the clerk behind the counter, "I need to order some Pilot red gel pens. You never have them in stock." Pointing, he said, "Okay, just go over to that computer. You can order them there." She said, "Please help me. I don't want to make any mistakes." He left the register. He met her over at the computer. He typed in all the information. He finished ordering the pens for her. He went back behind the counter to his register. She followed. She walked directly to his register. 4 people were in line at another register. One man said, "Excuse me, miss, the line is over here." She said, "I'm sorry, I was here already. You can ask him." The clerk said, "Sir, she's not cutting in line." She said, "But thank you for saying something. Every line needs a security guard like you." Bev was looking for an apartment to rent. Andy had asked Patty, "Will you please help me out? Show Bev some apartments. I'll split my commission with you." Patty agreed. She met Bev near Battery Park. Patty said hello. Bev was snooty. She said, "So you're Andy's little helper." Patty wasn't Andy's helper. In fact, she was Andy's senior. But she didn't correct Bev. They started walking to an apartment building. Patty said, "So you work at Citigroup?" She was just making small talk. Bev said, "Where I work is not your concern. You are here just to show me apartments. If you can't remember that, I'll inform Andy." Patty stopped walking. Bev stopped too. Patty pulled out her cell phone. She called Andy. She said, "I'm downtown with Bev. You can show her these apartments yourself. I have better things to do." Bev heard every word.